The video you're about to see was recorded between two remote locations, Washington Island and the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. You will see some weakness in the audio and video transmission due to weak broadband in both locations. As you'll see, the equitable distribution of wireless service is an important issue that we will touch on. Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Anderson from Washington Island, Wisconsin. Welcome to the fourth edition of the Island Report. We are sponsored by the Washington Island Chamber of Commerce and the Washington Island Observer. Our goal is to keep you informed on how the coronavirus has affected the island. Today, I have Michelle Knipes, the principal of the Washington Island School. Good morning, Michelle. How are you doing?
Great. Good morning, Alexandria. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I was hoping we could begin by you telling us a little bit about yourself, your title, and involvement with the Washington Island School.
My name is Michelle Knipes. I hail from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I've been with the Washington Island School District now for 2 years, and I'm part of the administrative team along with Sue Cornell. Sue takes care of business and finance, and I take care of the principal end of this public school, which would be curriculum and instruction, and I also have a hand as the athletic director.
Right, and can you tell us a little bit about the school? We know the island is small, but how many students and teachers does the school have?
We have 75 students, so that's based on our count day, which is required by the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, and we are a 4K through 12th grade facility. So we are very similar to other smaller school districts in the Wisconsin area. As a matter of fact, our basketball teams, the boys and girls high school teams, had an opportunity to travel to Mercer, Wisconsin, which is near my stomping ground. And they were able to meet students and school officials and community members who are in a school district very, very similar to Washington Island in terms of size. So we're unique because of the fact that we are an island school district. Yes.
Are there any major differences or challenges between the operation of the island school and schools in the area with bigger and even urban populations?
I think everything, as my father would indicate, boils down to money. So the island is unique in that nearly 93% of the operational costs of the districts are of this particular district is burdened by the taxpayer. So I feel like the uniqueness is there is a big commitment on island to maintain this facility for the 75 children that are served each day by our staff.
The island community is definitely a big part, or very interested in the school and, maintaining that community of excellence. Yes. What was your reaction when the school looked like it was going to have to temporarily close its in-person instruction with teachers and students, and how did you go about making that decision?
If you account for our bus drivers and as well as our custodial staff, we have about approximately 20 employees, and things blow through the wind, I guess. You hear varying information from whatever news channels you watch, but we received definitive information on March 16th and subsequently had to make decisions by March 17th about what we were going to do given the governor's directive and the Department of Public Instruction's directives. So within 48 hours, our staff was able to come up with a quasi-alternative learning plan, help students take personal belongings out of the school on that last day that we were together as a staff and students, which was March 17th, ironically St. Patrick's Day. And the staff stayed together after school was officially done that day to begin the planning work. We knew we were coming back on the 18th of March to spend the entire day working on what we would deem as essential learning standards to help direct staff deliver this alternative learning plan. We were able to box up Chromebooks, headsets, power cords, all the remote learning tools kids would need, including their textbooks and notebooks and workbooks. And families drove up on the 18th and picked up their boxes, signed out for the equipment. And again, like I said, within 48 hours, we felt like we were ready to roll in terms of what we were going to deliver to our students. I think the upside was we moved March 20th, literally we moved into spring break. So that gave our staff the opportunity to not only interact with each other, have me interact with them in turning around what would be our plan once the kids were officially back from break in a remote setting on the island.
And how has that online teaching of students been going? Have you had any significant problems or issues that have needed resolution? Or perhaps have you found any benefits with going online?
I think there's a lot of takeaways from this. One specific caveat, I guess, that I'm most pleased with was the one-to-one commitment by the Board of Education, the administration, and the staff. So all of our students had a Chromebook to access. So that, that particular piece of, or that tool was available to students. We also have several replacements, including batteries and cords for things that maybe aren't functioning as properly during these 40 some days we've been doing this. We also were able to get information regarding the availability of families to have internet access, and we found out that everybody had it. So that was another big takeaway. We were able to move from our plate and say, wow, great. We have a local businessman and woman, Kirsta and Joel Gundelson, who offered the availability of their hotel on island, the Town Liner, in the event people's internet was unstable or was not functioning. People could utilize, their Wi-Fi at the hotel if people needed it. We also had people privately agree to donate hotspots if they were needed, and or service if kids were really, really at odds. I think no differently than the UP or what is flashing across my screen sometimes, based on connectivity, it's unstable everywhere. And the island is no different. When you have storms that come across Lake Michigan, be they storms or snowstorms or rainstorms, it affects the stability of the internet. Certainly it's really tantamount that rural areas get a leg up on connectivity, but I think perhaps it's something people are struggling with worldwide.
It's really, the internet isn't a luxury anymore. It's really a necessity and almost a right for these students to be able to connect.
Yes.
And I think without it, I don't, the situation would be totally different, and who knows what we would be able to do. And it's just, we are lucky and we're blessed that we're able to continue education like this, and we're able to continue the schools, but it's definitely a challenge for sure.
And I would venture a guess in the next 2-3 months, as we move toward that fall marker of when school has traditionally started, it is going to be a discussion held at many, many levels in terms of how are we delivering not only these electronic devices to families to continue on at this, if that's the marker of what we have to do, but how are we ramping up the broadband? How are we ramping up the Wi-Fi? How are we ramping up this connectivity that people need to be more stable if we have to deliver a model remotely? But I think overall, our delivery has been positive. I don't want to say everybody's jumping around and saying, this is awesome, it's great. I think there are bumps in the road with it, because it seemed to be one of those things that are a learning curve. There was nobody, I don't think, across the United States that had any particular plan that everybody would follow along with and say, this is the model. Every one of us was able to grow and build a model. And I think what may come out of this is what typically is a revolution in the business world or other places. Public education has been relatively slow in moving ahead. This is giving us definite data that we're going to look back on and say what worked, what didn't work, and what can help us move forward as we venture toward the fall, and wait on information from our public officials and politicians in terms of what we're going to be able to do for education for kids. You had asked earlier, how do the kids feel about it? I got to tell you, the littles are probably the best pulse check you can ever get. They really miss seeing their teachers. They miss seeing each other. They miss that real social interaction. High school kids, I think if you were able to privately get them someplace and asked them, they would say, you know what, I really miss going. I miss the routine. I miss seeing my teachers. I miss being able to really interact with my friends. So a lot of this is a big disciplinary lesson, I guess, for kids. You have to have that kind of self-discipline to be able to power through a lot of schooling when you're literally alone. Our staff has been phenomenal. You know, if I was to say they were available 24/7, I would not be joking. They make themselves available to families and specifically to students to help them get through this, because we find it's with the warm weather coming and us head into the middle of May. This is where the resiliency, this is where we can do this, we can power through this together really comes into play to finish up this last quarter of the school year strong.
Thank you for all the work that you've been doing with the students and the teachers. You know, I've heard from, you know, some of the families how quickly and how difficult it was to respond so quickly to this situation. You know, it's so unprecedented.
Yes.
And I was just wondering, is there any kind of feedback or direction you could give to the public or to families on how to help support the school and the students? Is there anything that people can do to chip in to help you guys?
We have had a more positive support than I would imagined we'd have, Alexandria. Parents, you know, for the most part, are really, really trying to manage helping their students, which are their children, maintain their jobs, maintain some semblance of what, you know, family life is like, given the sequestration or the quarantine. We've lived by this mantra from March 17th to present. We've said as a staff, we're going to stay positive, and we're just going to hold our heads high and say, we can do this, we can muscle through this. So we want to be predictable and we want to be positive. And that's how we've tried to roll this whole alternative learning plan out. I send a weekly newsletter home to families and to students. Our web page is updated daily by our IT guy, who's also our webmaster, Tom Nikolai. He does a great job of putting the resources that we get for family and for students. The Door County United Way has a contract with Mike McGowan, who is a motivational speaker. He's done videos. United Way also has Cami, who helps support the Creative Stride. The gal that does those videos is named Jody. She does supportive services. May is Mental Health Month in the state of Wisconsin, and you know, we're doing outreach for families. We've also set up tutoring for students that are really, really struggling the most and need a check-in or check-out system. So I guess my advice to everybody is no different than every commercial you see on TV, any supportive services that are on the news or the television or whatever you know, media source you like. They're saying, be kind to each other and be positive. We will get through this. We will get through this. And I think that's probably the most important thing. The other throw I want to give Alexandria is to the Washington Island District staff. They have been outstanding in their positivity and their public relations and their forward thinking that they have. We have some rock stars that are utilizing technology that is unprecedented, as you said earlier. And I think that's probably one of the big takeaways we have. Maybe one of the upsides is we don't have a hot lunch program. So we're dissimilar from other districts, so we're not worrying about trying to, you know, be able to get kids their hot lunch or food. The island has a food bank. I know there are private individuals that are contributing to it, as well as some of the businesses on island. So we're trying to support families that are needing a financial assistance as well. And I think that bodes to probably the team-mindedness of the island. I think it bodes to the fact that they're willing to weather this storm, and they know once the storm gets weathered, we can look back and say, you know, what we did for each other was for the good. And I think those are all things that are important in helping everybody mentally and emotionally and spiritually to get through what's a really tough time.
I wholeheartedly agree with that message. I think the island is a wonderfully strong community, and if we stick together, we can overcome this. Do you have any thoughts for the future of the school? Do you know, we've heard rumors of schools closing through the fall. Do you have any plans for what you will do to face that? Or are you just taking things really as they come and making decisions from there?
I liken this to the lottery. Kind of, you buy a lotto ticket and you never know if you're going to be a winner or not, but you buy it thinking maybe, and you do all that, planning in your mind that, oh, if I win $1 million, I'm going to do this and this and this. And I think we're in a similar position in education. C7 has been a great partnership for this northeastern corridor of Wisconsin's public schools, including the Door County area. And they allow Zoom meetings on a continual basis, so administration and staff members are able to have like-minded conversations about what would it look like virtually next fall. What might it look like if we're able to get back into our buildings next fall? So I think there is a constant turnover of conversation, information, and facts as we know them to date regarding what the planning stages will look like. Do we look at a summer school scenario? Are school districts doing summer school? Will schooling continue on through the summer? So I think we all play out those scenarios waiting for actual confirmation governmentally. And I think it's good to have those conversations. It's good to do some proactive planning, but ultimately we're stuck in Never Never Land right now until there's more medical information that's rolled out, and more specifically, we get governmental information either nationally from the feds or the state and local governments. And I'm also going to give a shout out to Hoyt Purington and his entire staff and crew who've maintained their heads above water literally during this time, because I can't imagine how difficult it has been for them, as well as every other business on island who is working to stay afloat. So I'm appreciative of you and everybody else as well.
All right, well, I believe that covers everything that we hope to talk about today. I want to thank you, Michelle, for sharing your time with us and for everything that you and the staff have been doing for our kids and for our island schools. Thank you so much for joining us for the 4th edition of the Island Report, sponsored by the Washington Island Observer and the Washington Island Chamber of Commerce.
All right, you guys stay well and take care.